So,
and what was his interest in the role? Like, does he talked about, his big dream at all? Or?
Well, I don't know. I did mention to you some weeks ago that he came into my class 1 about your purpose, and he sent me a reply. He said, "Wow, okay, I'm rethinking my life. It's purpose." Okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
Okay, and so he obviously picked up something valuable. So I don't know what his purpose is, even in Get Set Up. But we'll see. We'll see how he seems. I suppose like attorneys, he comes across as arrogant, and in a people's business like this, particularly,
you can't do that.
No, not absolutely.
And have you been running some of your courses, like the purpose one? And
yeah, every day.
Every day. Yeah.
Every day.
What sort of feedback are you getting?
I'm getting amazing feedback. All right.
Thought you would.
But okay, not to do with the feedback. The but is that people are starting even on the part 5, the 5th class, which is a discussion about what you've been doing this week, and they come there for the first time. Okay, and
so they haven't done the first 4 modules.
No, they just arrive. They're allowed to arrive, and some of them arrive in the 4th module, and some of them arrive for the first time on the 3rd module. So that's something that I've already brought up with them, because we had a meeting, an audio meeting, a Google meeting on Friday, and I said, this is what's happening. And I said, we've either got to not show the series title, because that's the biggest and the first thing that gets seen when you look at. So it's the same title all the way through, and then in smaller print, a subtitle is that particular class. And I said, maybe we should make this, the subtitle the main class, and then put it the series as a subtitle. And I said, well, the other thing I'm thinking about was, possibly to make each class then independent,
standalone,
standalone classes. Maybe people do have an idea. They've already got this idea that they want to, and they've been long, and now they could come to class 2 possibly. Bring your idea. Let's launch it, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So that's so 1 and 2 could be. 3rd one, I'd have to just give it a little bit more, because that's like channels of communication, what platforms to use, and stuff like that, which shouldn't be too difficult either. But what happens, you see, like somebody comes into class 5 for the first time, they say the most ridiculous things or ask the most ridiculous questions, you see, and I've got to be careful not to upset them, because they would say something to the effect of, I've always been searching for an idea, but I really have no idea what to do. Now they're in class 5. So, piss off, man. Come to class 1.
Well, that's what I say. Do you just tell them to go back to class 1? And
I do. I've got to tell them in such a nice way that they enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
And how's your Russian English language class going?
Oh my goodness me! Were you there on Saturday or not?
No.
Yeah, neither was I.
Oh really? Oh okay.
But I must tell you, because of all this nonsense with Get Set Up, and all this, wanting another class for next week and so on, I just totally forgot about it. Totally forgot about it until an hour before on Saturday. I was working flat out, and I just Skyped Ilana. I said, "This is it. I've been working flat out. I totally forgot to prepare, and can you handle the class?" And she replied, "Leave it with me, Michael." And yeah, I haven't asked her yet. I thought I'd just let a day go by and ask her how it went. But there appeared to be 3 other people from the comments in the Skype session. So, yeah, so that was also an unfortunate situation. It also made me think, do I carry on with it? Because it's like any of my other classes. I give time to it, and I rethink it and I make it too complicated then on purpose, and then I simplify it. And so you're talking about a few hours a week to put into it, and that's I have been asking myself the question: do I continue with it? Don't I continue with it? Okay, and I haven't come up with an answer.
They seem very keen on having an English-speaking, like a native English-speaking person involved, don't they?
Yes, yeah. I think that really was the purpose of it, and I know they are appreciative. Okay. And I guess got to, I don't know, be a little bit more whatever. Okay. Yeah.
Well, maybe you don't need to do as much preparation.
Yeah, possibly. When we're doing the foundation stones, a lot of the stuff, the foundation pillars, things come to mind and so on. And but I like to do the slides, because then they can read as well. You see, so they read and then talk and then questions. So it works. And more recently, I've just been allowing PowerPoint to come up with a solution to and to the design and the image and the color, and so I just go with that. Whereas historically, I used to put a lot of time into that, so which is unimportant. It's really it's the content on the screen and the content that gets talked about and questions that get on. That's where the value lies. So yeah. So yeah, that's wrong. So tell me about you, man. Tell me about you. What you've been up to?
Oh, well, I've been giving a lot of thought to stuff on the back of your sessions, just from my own perspective, I guess, about what's important and stuff like that. And I sort of been thinking, like I've in recent years, I tended to always be available to help others, which I still am, but in the process of doing so, end up not doing anything for myself.
Yeah.
And I'd sort of just rationalize it away and say, oh, well, that's okay, because it's important to help others and but I sort of come to the conclusion, which it was very much helped by listening to your, as they were then, draft sessions, about, well, no, you've got to look after yourself too, because if you're not in a good place yourself, then your ability to help others is dramatically diminished anyway. So so I've been giving a fair bit of thought to that, in terms of
anything that comes out of the thinking.
Oh, well, particularly that session 1 and 2, around the grand purpose and those aspects, and I sort of really are settling on the importance of, fostering a creative spirit. I think that's, and I mean, and the way that I manifest it is through, furniture and, woodwork and those sorts of things, and even education around those elements. But I think that idea of fostering a creative spirit is something that's needed, and it's not necessarily in the same vein as creative society, although it has some common elements in some respects. But I think the fostering of that creative spirit really does go to, self-expression and being fulfilled as a person, and also, pushing your own boundaries and some of those elements.
Answer it.
Sorry. Hey, how you doing?
Hello, it's only me.
Can I give you a call back? I'm just on another video conference. Is that okay?
Yeah. No worries, all good.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so I just sort of, case in point, just there's sort of thinking like, well, it's important to feel more complete about those aspects from my own personal perspective, and I feel that I have sort of neglected it for too long, so so I've been giving a lot of thought to that as to what that might look like and what I need to do and that sort of thing. So yeah, so I've been quite engaged with that and feel ready to act on it as well,
Oh,
so.
I was going to say, have you come to any sort of like small first steps?
Well, the first steps was sort of last night, actually, where I reactivated my ABN number and business name registration, and and I've been looking around the mechanics around all of that. And it's also like from another perspective come too, because I was talking to my eldest son there about a week or so ago. He was talking to me about, I think I mentioned to you about cryptocurrency and all of those sorts of investments and that. And the more I thought about it, I thought, well, the best possible investment that I could make is in myself for myself.
Cool.
So, just from a few different perspectives, and but I've got to say though that the value that you added to the thinking process through what the work that you did was just phenomenal. I mean, it really, like as I sort of sat there and thought through some of those big questions that are posed and cycling it through the why question all the way along was just extremely helpful.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you very much for that.
Mm.
So just going back to what you were saying, now you went and activated your company account and so on, and just go back one step. Now you've done that, you've taken some action, but what is and you've also mentioned that your purpose is spiritual creativity, making people aware of spiritual creativity. But what idea have you come up with? Have you come up with an idea?
Well, to basically use, actual creativity in the sense of furniture restoration and those sorts of elements. So, I was approached there the other day, or just someone asked me the question there, where I've been doing some work, whether I'd be interested in, running some sessions for them.
Sessions, what do that mean? What does that mean?
Like educational sessions,
Okay.
So
training.
Training. Oh, well, training and
how to type sessions or
how to, and also the why, the why behind, like, why would you do this? So
okay, right.
and where it came from is, one of the challenges that this pandemic has provided to them as a business is access to stock. They're just finding it incredibly hard to get stock. Well,
yeah.
at this time of year, they'd be leading up to like the end of financial year sale.
Mm,
Well, they can't have a end of financial year sale because they just haven't got the stock holdings to do it. So
right.
their thinking was, oh, well, how do we add value to our customers and keep them interested and all that sort of thing? And so they've approached me and a few other people to say, well, how would you feel about, running some of these how-to sessions and that sort of thing around some of these
That
ideas?
sounds great.
And I
Are
sort of
you,
said, yeah, well, I'm happy to do it, but I said, I want to do it on a commercial basis because, obviously it's going to benefit you. And I says, I want it to benefit me as well. I'm not a unregistered charity.
right, right.
So I said, well, I'm very, very interested in the area and would joyfully do it, but let's do it on a professional basis, so.
Yeah, yeah. But, from their side, just, I find this exciting that you're saying now.
Mm.
If they're doing their which it sounds like they are, okay, they're not using you to make sales, okay. They should be using you to add value to their customers and potential customers,
Yeah.
and people, so that you keep your authenticity. Okay, you have your style. You don't change it because this is now a commercial venture. Okay,
No.
you're doing it because your purpose is spiritual creativity.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
that's it. Regardless of the money.
Yeah,
Regardless
exactly
of the
right.
money. Okay.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Yes, you say to them, X dollars per hour or half hour or whatever it is. Okay, and we'll do a series. And oh my goodness, this would be up your alley. And not only will you be working with your hands, but you'll be working with your head, and you'll be getting out there, creating a society with your energy and the words that you use. Okay.
Well, as recent as Saturday morning, I was there just engaging with customers there because I normally work on a Saturday morning in the store there, and the South African chap actually came up to me and he was asking me a few questions about this, that, and the other, and what would I recommend and that. So I was talking to him, and at the end of the conversation, he says, he says, I really want to thank you. He says, like you've really opened my eyes. He says, you're like a walking encyclopedia. He says, I wouldn't have thought of any of these ideas.
Oh, that's great.
So I said, and for me, that was just like, oh, well, if I was looking for a divine sign,
absolutely,
say yes, go and do it. There it was.
Spot on. Okay. So that's fantastic, Don. You really got a purpose, you've got an idea, and now you've got a product. Okay. So all you got to do now, you already opened your company again, registered your company, where the bank account, the money can go in there, and you can not even worry about the money. Okay.
No, well, that's right. There's that, and then the other thing, just in a practical sense, like today, I sort of cleaned out the garage because I want to sort of get that set up as a more functional area, and so it's just all of these things just started to flow from it, So
yeah. Garage functional area. It's all together. Everything's just coming together. Eh?
And it is, and it's literally just flowing, which is for me always been a sign of like, well, should I persist with this? Like if it's in flow, but if you're coming up against obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, I'm sort of thinking, no, well, maybe this is not the way, but this is in flow. So I'm just, enjoying the ride at the moment. So
yeah, absolutely. And with that energy behind you, when you do come up against obstacles, you mustn't try and be philosophical and say, well, I mustn't do this anymore. These obstacles are like little warts from, maybe karma or something like that,
Well, that's right. And it's also too about, because an important thing that I enjoy about, being creative around furniture and restoring and preserving is the ability to problem solve, and so it's just applying that same mindset that if a little obstacle comes up, well, look at it as a challenge to do it better, So,
yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's been really it's been good. So I go to bed, you know, at night sort of full of thoughts and ideas, and wake up in the morning energized. And so I think, yeah, this is good.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. So,
And you know, too, in the past, I probably would have been worrying about, oh, well, what's the money going to look like? No, I'm not worried about that.
don't worry. Absolutely.
If I get this other bit right, it'll just be there, you know. So
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's not, you're still fulfilling your purpose.
yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So your purpose might be tested. Okay. And maybe money is your weak link, and so now that's the way it will test you. But if your purpose is, which it is, I'm absolutely convinced, comes from your heart, okay, that the whole creative spirit and wanting to make people aware and moving it out, using the idea of your woodwork, it's all together. It's a strong purpose. Okay.
Yeah.
And so now you need to, I mean, there are a whole lot of hows and things. You've already got one how. You've got a person there who's going to, you know, give you some sort of direction of what to do. But also, you need to now, because of your spiritual purpose, your spiritual creativity, you want to get a following as well. So, you know, choose whichever you want to use, and it can be insignificant. You know, if you quite serious about you know, not liking Instagram or Facebook or those, you know.
Oh yeah, it's not so much about that anymore. You know, it's as you say, they're just a means to an end, really. And like the other thing that I've, you know, started to do is I'm going to get my book, you know, reformatted. So I've been looking on Fiverr for someone to go and, you know, to do the reformatting and set it up and all that sort of stuff, you know. So it's all of those sorts of elements, you know, just sort of lining up, you know. So
and have you, you know, you could rather than Fiverr, I mean, looking for somebody at Fiverr, you could do it yourself, going Draft to Digital, which is another platform, okay, and then they market it, and through
I'll have to have a look at that.
Barnes and Noble, and they have about 15 outlets, okay, and you don't get charged. You only get a commission taken off. I know, because they sold one of my books for $5 last week, and I got $2.98 from the $5. Okay, so yeah, that could be another route, but then you do it yourself. Okay, so in other words, you reformat it. But if you want somebody else to add creativity to it, then of course Fiverr is the ideal place, or Upwork.
And it seems to be relatively inexpensive depending on what package you go for. Like when I say inexpensive, like, you know, for less than 100 pages, you know, someone will do it for you. Presumably, you know, looking at the reviews and that, they're quite capable, but, you know, for like $250 or something like that, you know. So,
okay, okay. Yeah, because you've already got all the content.
That's right. You've got the content and that, you know. So but anyway, all of those things. So they're all just sort of coming to mind and just, you know, taking actions, like little steps to get things done, you know.
And I think it was class 4 this week. You know, somebody went off at a tangent saying, you know, I'm struggling with creating a business plan, and I said, okay, let's just go over where you've been, what's your idea, what's your purpose again? Okay, now forget a business plan.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, forget a business plan. Okay, you know, you must now plan according to your character, to your authenticity, to who you are. Okay, not to what is, you know, you perceive somebody wants to read out there. You plan. It must fit. You know, if you going to work whatever it is, 3 hours a day, then that's part of your thinking and how you're going to do everything in those, what you got to do broadly. but you don't go down and make things difficult for yourself when you evaluate maybe the end of the week or the end of the month. Okay. You make it simple, easy steps, and prioritize your steps based on your purpose.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing else, not your budget or anything else.
No.
Get down to the. And so, yeah, that was this last week coming out of one of the classes. Yeah. So, Ella, I'm excited.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And you historically, I don't like goals. Okay. And because of the historical perception of what goals are, okay, and goals are usually historically about sales or money in the bank or something like that. But I said in this class, and I feel strongly that you set yourself easily measurable, doable, authentic tasks. Okay. And then you can evaluate yourself. At the end of the day, you can say, well, I wanted to do one post every day on, let's say, Instagram, and I've done that. Check it off. That's a goal, if you like, achieved, but it's something
that's right.
Yeah. And so you move on and you say, well, now I've got to, what comes first amongst everything else? Customer care. Okay, and you and I have spoken about that. So we get to okay, how do I if somebody asks me a question on social media, one of my intents, you say to yourself possibly, is I've got to answer as quick as possible. That's customer care. They want an answer. They don't want to wait another day for an answer. Okay. Okay? They're asking you a question, you want to respond, and the quicker you respond with authenticity, then you're building that relationship, and that's
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And honesty. And I think that's the other thing that's sort of been lacking. I think there needs to be like an almost brutal honesty, particularly with yourself. But it's also okay to be honest with people. To tell people, like, oh, I don't know, or like, well, actually, I know where you can get access to this. It's over there with that other business over there. Like, I think just that level of authenticity, integrity, and I think this sort of honesty. But the honesty, my view, has got to start with yourself. If you can't be honest with yourself, then you've got no hope after that. So.
Totally agree. Totally agree. And these things get thrown up, in subtle sort of ways. Like, for example, the Alata Saturday group, the first thought that crossed my mind was, tell them I'm sick. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And I thought, Michael, who the hell's thinking through your head? Okay.
That's right. Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Or even just saying, like, oh, well, I'm busy with Sue. Well, why are you blaming her? Like,
yeah, absolutely. It's the truth. Yeah. I forgot. Okay. I can have a reason for forgetting. That's okay, but I forgot. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I really do. I've come to the same conclusion. That it's so important to have that brutal honesty with yourself. So
yeah, and sometimes it's tempting. Yeah, just to.
Quite often. But hey, if you're not prepared to hold yourself accountable, again, what chance have you got of doing with anyone else? So
yeah, and that's what you're communicating. You see, that's your society in the future. That's your spirit society. So which turns out not to be. It turns to be a satanic society.
It does, because it's all based on a lie. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. And the ego.
Yeah. No, truth is a pretty good leveler. But it's quite liberating though at the same time, like you don't have to remember anything. It's just, here it is.
Yeah. So tell me, when you reorganize your garage and so on, as you go along, you're going to take pictures of what it's like now, in the finished
Yeah,
product.
I can do. Yeah, I can do. Yeah, I can do that.
Those things interest people who work with tools and things like that.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, and it's sort of interesting too that until I had the clarity around the purpose, like there's lots of stuff that I've collected, which you just do as part of, like old broken pieces and that, which you've got no intention of restoring them, but you keep them because you can use them in other projects and things like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
So like the term they normally apply to it is like your breaker collection, so because you can't reproduce a lot of these things, because of the age of it and things like that, so
Right.
and I sort of surprised myself as to how big my breaker collection is. I had things there that I'd forgotten about, so again, one of the disciplines is well, just make a note of it, sort of, produce a bit of a catalogue, because that way you don't have to remember. If you're looking for a piece, go to your catalogue and say, oh yeah, I've got one of those. So
Absolutely spot on. Absolutely. Yeah.
So no, it's been good.
Pictures and writing, journaling is really a good.
Well, it is, isn't it? It is. Like I think it's one of those paradoxical things. One of my strengths and weaknesses at the same time is that there's too much stuff just in the head. You've got to get it out.
Yeah.
The best way to get it out is to write it down. So,
yes, definitely. Yeah.
So and it sort of changed my day a bit too, in the sense that I allocate time for different things, like the reflection and writing and thinking time and
right,
some of those things as well. So care for self and that. So that's been good.
Yeah.
So I feel quite refreshed and rejuvenated and re-energized by it all. So
oh, that's great.
And ironically, when you get a phone call from someone saying, oh, can you talk this through with me or something like that, you say, yeah, fine, that's no problem.
Yeah.
I'm in a much better place to add value to your position than before, when it was almost like an obligation, like, oh yeah, okay,
Yeah.
Now you're sort of just doing it freely and openly.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. And it's adding value, creatively adding value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very much a bit like, through your get set up classes, is that you're not there to solve their problems for them, but you're there to ask them the poignant questions so that they can make that journey and discover it themselves, So,
yeah. And the big word that I've come up with this weekend is resilience.
Yeah, that is. It's an important.
Okay, I don't know what it's going to lead to, but that's the word that I came up with this week: resilience. Okay, and I thought,
well, if you want an example of resilience, just look at the Earth. It's resilience, personified, isn't it?
That's interesting. Yeah,
it just strives and thrives on healing itself and being expressed, and that, and I was sort of thinking about it, like you have potatoes sitting in a cupboard, in a dark cupboard, and if you forget about it or leave it there too long, or it's at the back of the the basket or something like that, how does it respond? It starts to shoot. It says, I'm alive, let me grow. and that's Mother Nature all around. It's just thriving with life, it's just thriving to bloom and be expressed, and I think to myself, well, isn't that a wonderful role model?
Yeah, it is. Now talk about resilience in our terms, in our life. Resilience
in many respects, I guess the sort of thing that comes to mind for me is like, particularly in this part of the, where I live, where you get cyclones and floods and strong weather and stuff like that. The idea of resilience for me is one of, when something gets knocked down, the ability to stand it back up, and not only stand it back up, but hopefully stand up better and stronger. So
Right.
resilience from a personal perspective is a bit like that, when you come up against challenges and obstacles and whether it be illness or whatever it is, that process of standing yourself back up for me is what resilience is all about, So,
Right. Right. Yeah.
is that what you had in mind?
I didn't have anything in mind, the word came up, was like flashed at me because I think last year I bought a book, and it was like it was like for the whole period of the day. It was, I mean, it's been in the same place. The book hadn't moved, but I had started observing the cover. You know what I mean? And I thought, what is the universe saying to me? Resilience. And and I guess now that we're talking about it, I've told you what's happened the last few days with Get Set Up, you see, and me writing this email and getting fed up in the process of it. Now, for the first time, resilience. Michael, stick in there, stand up strong, okay, and move forward. So. Yeah.
I think that's really poignant. I mean, I see it a little bit stronger than that even. I mean, the resilience is, like, because I don't sort of see in that scenario that you and Sue were the problem, as they were sort of portraying it almost to be.
Yeah.
Like you and Sue were very much the solution. The problem is the other parties, and the resilience around that is helping them see the truth of the matter,
okay,
to enable you to have a more constructive conversation about moving it forward.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
And we shouldn't be frightened of that. We shouldn't be frightened of that at all, just because like he's the Australian manager, or Duval is the international manager, whatever titles they have. It doesn't matter who they are, really. It's just about having the integrity and the authenticity to have those conversations in the interests of the collective good.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. Yeah.
Because it wasn't all about you, and it certainly is not about them, but it's about the collective good.
Yeah, about a system that's can be improved.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
And
again,
it shouldn't be a static thing either. It should be something about let's further evolve this. Because as the demands on your time or new subject matter or whatever, it's always going to need to be about how can we do this better.
Yeah. But when you communicate it in writing, you never know how people perceive the structure of those sentences.
Yeah, well, you kind of do in one sense. That the history of how people read written communication is normally with one eye closed and they're having a go at me.
Yeah.
But that's just more about them. But it's just
about it is. But it's their reality, and they make decisions based on their reality.
But it's also an invitation to have a conversation, and you can't be any more open than that.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So I understand it might be your reality. Well, bring your reality to me, and let's have a discussion. In fact, that's one of the insights, is that when two people are having an argument, one of the biggest tragedies is that the argument finishes too soon. Because and part of the mindset is, oh, we shouldn't be arguing, we should get this sorted. But no, we need to argue so that I understand completely where you're coming from and you understand where I'm coming from, and we explore a meeting of the minds. And
Okay,
that process needs to take its course.
that's
you know.
interesting. Yeah, yeah.
And so it's not about, peace as quickly as we can, or let's avoid the conflict. Or no, let's get everything on the table so we can sort this out, so
Okay.
isn't it? I mean, that's what it's about.
You're right. It's absolutely spot on. That's a lovely perspective. I've never heard it expressed like that before.
Do you think about the number of relationships that break down? Oh, we were arguing. Obviously not long enough, because you haven't had a meeting of the minds.
Yeah. I'm going to think about that one. It's interesting.
It also invites you to think about your argument, that is not about winning the argument. It's about understanding the other person's perspective and also conveying understanding of your own perspective.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's a really constructive argument. But if you go into the argument, I'm going to win this argument, then hey, take your pistols, it'll be over pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Anyway, my friend, that might be a good place to.
I agree. Very positive place to end. And I'm so excited to hear your plans, so on. So let's catch up on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be really good. So is there anything you want to look forward to in anticipation on Wednesday, or should we just catch up and take it from there?
I think we both know where we both are at this moment, based on the last 2 or 3 days. And we're going through a process at the moment, both of us, okay, right now, a very tangible process, okay.
Yep.
So I think it would be great just to, see what your next step, what you think in your next step is, and me feeding you back on the communication that I've done and what is the outcome of that communication, because I think that's really part of our spiritual awareness. Okay?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So unless you have some other ideas.
No, I'd like to continue the conversation around some of those dimensions, because I think that, if we are clear in our own minds about the spiritual foundation on which this work is being built, then that can only be a really positive thing.
Yeah, I agree. So maybe we just each think of a couple of subject headings, if you like, so that we don't go off at a tangent.
Yeah, or even just a couple of things that we think are important to talk about.
Yeah. And then we voice them on Wednesday, or if you want to communicate them before then, that's fine too.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Look forward to catching up on Wednesday then.
Fantastic. Thanks, Todd.
Okay.
We're going to go, but I'm going to change my background because I've got a class at 7:00, and then I turn on and I don't have my.
Okay. You get set up on. Yeah. That's a good.
There we are. Okay.
Wonderful. Okay then. Take care. Bye.